Hello and welcome to the live interaction session for fundamentals of artificial intelligence. This is the third in the series and I look forward to answering some queries that we have received on the Google Sheet shared with you and also some live questions that may come as we go along. So, one of the queries that we have received on the Google Sheet was about the role and application of artificial intelligence on mechanical engineering. Kindly recall that this was also one of the queries in our second live interaction session, and thereafter, as promised on that very day, I had posted a document on which could be the areas within mechanical engineering to explore and see how artificial intelligence in general or AI techniques such as machine learning or deep learning could be applied within mechanical engineering. Let me cover that as an answer to this query in this session as well. Now, one needs to realize that the rapid development of electronics in general, including technologies of networking, leading to what we see today, the huge influx of sensors and what we commonly refer to as Internet of Things. The very basic idea of doing mechanical engineering is undergoing a tremendous change. Artificial intelligence brings with it a new perspective on how one could take the advances in this area and use it for development of more efficient mechanical engineering systems. One very early realization of use of artificial intelligence in mechanical engineering was about diagnosis of mechanical engineering faults using AI techniques. In more recent terms, one could look for fault diagnosis using techniques of machine learning. For example, one could think of monitoring lathe machining and create a intelligent system that could correct errors as it occurs in the machining process, which would be an ensemble of artificial intelligence and what is more commonly referred to as mechatronic systems. Now, one could also explore artificial intelligence in the area of product design, particularly product automation and the idea of innovation of new products. AI combined with cognitive computing, Internet of Things, 3D printing, human machine interactions have changed the way people look at products or the way products could be manufactured and delivered or even upgraded. So, use of AI techniques including techniques such as deep learning and machine learning to investigate a range of research applications. For example, desalinating water with energy efficient materials, or inspection of pipes using some form of robotic crawlers, or inspection of infrastructure using unmanned aerial vehicles, could be areas that anyone within mechanical engineering could take up and use AI techniques to get to very efficient solutions. Artificial intelligence helps in data driven insights to understand complex phenomena and more accurate analysis as well as investigations. So, this is leading to a paradigm shift not only in the product design process, but the way we look at how products need to interact with human beings and how products need to be made intelligent for their acceptance in the near future. So, these are areas which mechanical engineers can exploit once they have some fundamentals of artificial intelligence as designed in this course. Finally, to wind up this answer, I had already mentioned in one of my interactions the idea of digital twins, that is, having a complete digital replica of a mechanical system in the real world. The replica is in the virtual world, and as the replica takes its life forward, I am able to predict or even foresee what could happen in the real world for the system and take corrective measures. So, these are emerging areas within mechanical engineering which is made possible only because of the advancements made in artificial intelligence. That is our first query. Now, let us take the second query on the Google Sheet. So, the second query is interesting, for it questions the very essence of what this course is about. So, I started this course by saying we would look at how artificial intelligence works and how it is going to be applied in certain fields. So, the question is about fundamentals of artificial intelligence, how it works and which development we should have to do in this field. Now, this is one question which you should be able to answer yourself, having done a 12-week course on the fundamentals of AI. But not to discourage you, if you are not able to see how to apply, please look up my additional material posting and try to look up the 6-7 applications that I have highlighted, and one of these would be of interest to you either in your industry or in your bachelor's project or master's project. For if it is not very clear what you are. In one place you said you are a student, in another answer you said you are a person from the industry. So, I am a bit confused. If you are both, then you must be taking some internships in an industry, and if you look at all the 7 modules of the course over the 12 weeks, you could definitely find one which could be applied for the problems that you have. If you need more clarifications on such a problem statement, please feel free to write an email to me with the details of your problem, and I will highlight how we could apply one of the AI techniques that we have discussed in this course for attempting a solution in the area of your interest. Thank you. Now, these were the two questions on the Google Sheet. We have no more questions on the sheet that was circulated. Let me now take up questions that are coming live on the portal. So, AB Galaxy Knowledge Hub is saying how I can register for this course. Now, this is something which one needs to be aware of, that there are courses run by NPTEL on the SWAYAM portal, and one can register for that course within a given deadline. But for this course it is now too late, for we have covered almost 12 weeks of teaching, where at the end of every week you are supposed to do an assignment and submit for your final evaluation. So, I will advise you to look out for such courses in the next cycle. Now, there is another comment by Chetan Verma, which is something that I partially agree to. So, let me first read his comment and then I will discuss why I meant what I meant by partially agreeing to what he has said. He says, I still feel the gap of theoretical hypothesis and execution in practical applications because of lack of programming knowledge, being from mechanical background. Now, this is true to an extent that in our conventional mechanical engineering curriculum, we do not have programming to an extent that we would love to see, but then programming in mechanical engineering is also not completely absent. I am not sure where you did your BTech from, but in many of the BTech curriculum, not only at IIT or NITs, but beyond that, courses such as data structures and some basic programming languages like C, C++, or any other object oriented programming for that matter, forms part of the curriculum. That is why I agree only partially to what you have raised. But then AI or applying machine learning requires much more programming skills than just a basic course in programming. But then that is the fun. You understand the fundamentals and then try to take a small problem, like I have taught you problem solving as search, and there I emphasize that one could take up the 8 puzzle game and try to write a small program from the examples that have been dealt with, wherein you could specify a given start state and your program could find a path to the goal state. Having done this, which is of course of no practical importance as you can see, but the thrill and the fun of doing it will teach you a lot of programming skills on the way, and you could then hone your tunnels to get to a real practical application. So, I would not say the jump from a course on fundamentals of AI to solving a practical problem would be just a simple jump. I would say one has to really look at these courses and try to see if you could at least write programs for the examples that I have discussed in this course, or the algorithms that I have discussed in this course, and then one should attempt at really looking at very professional type of programming and take help of sites such as GitHub to get to some idea of how you could program to solve a practical problem. And this is something that has to be done at an individual level. So, the onus is on you to develop your programming skills rather than blaming it on the curriculum of mechanical engineering. Yes, Chetan, the second portion of your comment is absolutely right. I agree. Once you can solve these smaller problems that we have dealt with in this course, you could then go on to solve real practical applications, but then and the jump to AlphaGo would be a huge jump. I would suggest going from an 8 puzzle solution that I have dealt with, you could then attempt just a chess playing program or something like that, and then slowly move on to bigger problems. So, how one deals with knowledge in solving AI problems is itself a huge area of research, and there are courses on NPTEL and elsewhere which only deals with this area. You could look up for courses that reads something like fundamentals or advanced courses on knowledge representation and reasoning. So, representation of knowledge and how you reason on that knowledge is a very, very fundamental problem in AI, and a simple fundamental course in AI can have only one module in this area, as I had in my course here, where we did look at knowledge representation and reasoning, but only looked at first order logic as a knowledge representation formalism. There are more interesting knowledge representation formalisms and a specialized course on knowledge representation and reasoning, or what is more commonly referred to as KR&R, would be what one needs to complete before moving further to take these applications or techniques to real world scenarios. So, there is a new query now from New BTech Inc. So, I suppose this is a company or very difficult to say from the login ID, but the query is that after completion of a diploma in information technology and with great interest in AI, in what programming languages I should focus more? Now, this is to continue the discussion with Mr. Verma that I was having. Programming languages per se would depend on the type of application I have in mind. but there are very popular languages, and one could talk of the most popular among students and the young generation now, talking of AI, deep learning, machine learning, is Python. So, you could definitely do something on Python and programming if you have completed a diploma in AI and you are very comfortable with C and its object oriented variant, the C++. If you aren't, then my suggestion would be that please do a basic course in some procedural oriented programming like C, and then move on to C++, and thereafter take the jump to more recent programming paradigms. Now, there is another query from Avishek Kumar. Sir, how I can get internship in any IITs? My branch is CS from a private college. Sir, please give me advice. Now, this is a difficult situation you have put me in. This interaction is on my course on fundamentals of artificial intelligence, and here is a query that is not related to it, but then as a teacher it would be inappropriate for me not to help out some energetic, enthusiastic scholar, and therefore my advice would be kindly go to these web pages of the IITs or NITs that you want to join internship. Most of these institutions would have summer internship provisions, many would have winter internship provisions that needs to be applied way ahead, not just the day before your summer or winter break starts, way ahead. And most of these IITs have Center for Educational Technologies, so you could go to their websites and see what is available for AICTE recognized colleges under the TechEap scheme, where you could have internships possible in these institutions. Now, coming back to what Chetan has put on the live portal here, he says, as technology is quickly enhancing with respect to programming stuff such as TensorFlows, etc., may become of less use later on. So, how to deal with that stuff? Now, this is something which is exciting. As you read more interesting novels in English or any vernacular language of your choice, do we still forget ABCD and the grammar rules? You don't. So, one has to really look at it this way. Whatever newer developments are coming, it will not come out of the blue. One has to really first get their basics right, foundations strong, and then moving would be far easier than jumping onto this new technology out of the blue. So, my suggestion would be please develop these skills, and as things shift to newer stuff, your adaptation level will be very, very high. Now, this is some technical question. Farzana Farheen had written that is virtual GPU enough to implement Python code for machine learning algorithms? Of course, yes, for the type of machine learning that I am expecting you to really solve as practice for this course. But if I am talking of huge machine learning algorithms and with a huge amount of data, then I would be looking for really better machines and better platforms. But then to start with, a virtual GPU would be good enough for you to attempt machine learning in problems, such as using some video to understand what is the human action, and that could be one machine learning program that you could run there. Or you could take videos of cars as moving around in a circuit, and then you could think of what is the behavior of the car, like is the red car following the yellow car, or is the red car overtaking the yellow car. So, such type of what are called qualitative relations, if I want to learn from a video, and this is a very interesting machine learning problem. With a small video or data set, you could of course implement these things in a virtual GPU. Now, Abhishek Kumar, I just answered your query on how to get an internship, and maybe you didn't listen to the answer that I had given immediately prior to that to New BTech Inc., who wrote about what programming languages he need to explore. So, I told him if you have done no programming at all, then start with C, move on to C++, understand what is object oriented programming very nicely, and then the choice right now for most of the people is Python. So, learn something in Python, and that would be very nice. But then most of the stuff that we have done in this course could be done in any object oriented programming language. And if you are more into stuff like logic for AI, then I would suggest you look for programming languages such as Lisp or Prolog. Now, to answer to Chetan again, he says, sir, practical applications that has been based on reinforcement learning. So, are you suggesting that I tell you what practical applications are there on reinforcement learning? The question is not very clear, but under the assumption that you are looking for such applications based on reinforcement learning, let me give you two examples. One, if you look up reinforcement learning and is looking for some courses, then one person comes to my mind is David Silver, and if you go to his web pages, you will see that he has applied reinforcement learning for very complex maneuvers of an helicopter. So, the complete unmanned aerial helicopter is taking maneuvers, that is a drone sort of thing, but the shape is of an helicopter. That is a drone, you people would love to call it a drone. That is an unmanned aerial vehicle basically, and most of the maneuvers that is shown on the video, it has been achieved using reinforcement learning. That is one Then there are other implementations, including something from my own group where we have shared on GitHub, where we have used reinforcement learning to understand, and just by looking at the video, what somebody is doing in a kitchen. So if somebody is trying to open a microwave and then take a bowl, put some cereal on it and put some milk, then my program can say that this person is going to have breakfast. So we have used reinforcement learning to understand and activities from video. So reinforcement learning has been used to understand activities from video or practical applications where a robot can understand what a human being is doing, or for even control things like real control of maneuvers of an unmanned aerial vehicle. Very interesting. You please look up the videos available on Silver's web page. It is really exciting. Now, the other query on practical applications that has been based on reinforcement learning and deep learning. Deep learning, you can look up the web. There are so many applications on deep learning that have been used, and because this is a course on fundamentals of artificial intelligence and designed for our mechanical engineers, one application that's have been practically put using deep learning is for finding out rotor failure, or when would our rotor fail when it is moving inside, and after how many cycles or what pressure distribution does it fail. So these type of things have been learned using deep learning, and then these are what I was referring to in the very beginning of this course. Some fault diagnosis is systems can be very well put using deep learning. Now, in order to come to Abhishek's list of queries, I must first confess that I am not the best person to put these queries to. You are asking about data structure books, algorithm books, DBMS books. I would advise that it would be best if you talk to your faculty mentors in your own college about books, because pointing out one book to be better than the other, and that too not from AI, would be something that I would not really find it correct in this platform. For artificial intelligence, I have suggested 3 books in my own course, and I would love to see that you follow them. So, one is by Patrick Winston, the other is by Russell and Norvig, and one is by Nielsen himself. So, these 3 books is what I have mostly covered, apart from a couple of other ones that I have listed whenever I have gone beyond these 3 books. Now, one query that has come from Pulak is about industrial engineering in student. How can we enhance AI in our project related to supply chain management? Now, this is really a question that one needs to ask when you are interested in both AI and your own area of industrial engineering. Now, what I would say is that what comes to my mind immediately is we could have data driven techniques or what is called data driven decision making for such problems. So, you could think of having a huge amount of historical data on the type of problem that you are immediately trying to solve, and then you could figure out what would be the best decision that could have been taken in this historical data that I have, using techniques of utility theory together with probability theory that we have discussed, and the decision theory that we have discussed in one of our modules. And then you would have learned the best decisions possible. Now, remember that the historical data that I am talking of is something that is different from what you would generate when you will try to solve the problem. So, I am trying to say that you have some data to learn the best decision, and then when you have new data coming in, you see, given the historical data and the learned best decision, what decision to take. So, you can implement such a thing and using the AI techniques that we have learned in this course. So, continue to what I said to Polak. If you look up my additional material that I have posted on the Google Drive, where I had given a list of artificial intelligence in mechanical engineering areas to explore, in serial number 5 you could find the answer to your question, where I said data driven insights to understand complex phenomena and more accurate results and analysis is something that we can take up, and this is what exactly can be done in the problem of supply chain management. Yes, Chetan, the answer to your question is yes, but let me first read the question for the benefit of the rest of the viewers. What Chetan is asking is, have you come across any Markov decision problem and partial order decision and practically? Now, recall that I told you I use reinforcement learning and have used this for understanding human activities in a restricted kitchen environment, and there are, before you can do reinforcement learning or as part of reinforcement learning, and if you remember reinforcement learning, you have to have the POMDP, and of course wherever you have reinforcement learning working or inverse reinforcement learning working for that matter, you have practically a partial order Markov decision process or a Markov decision problem. So, can you be Mr. Verma, I am not getting your question here. Can you be more specific on what you mean by, can you explain the optimal policy based on your example? Can you be more specific what you are looking for? Are you looking for how the reinforcement learning agent works? Is that what the question is? Or the question is, how does one find out the optimal policy? So, I would suggest that you kindly look up the first lecture on week 12, which is about reinforcement learning, and also please look at it as continuation of the lecture on making complex decisions from week 9. And if you recall, while we were talking of making complex decisions, we did talk of how one could go about making decisions in a complex scenario, and then one has to really understand week 9's second lecture, which is on sequential decision problems, where we had introduced the idea of policy. And if you remember, a complete mapping from states to action is what is termed as a policy, and one that gives me the maximum rewards as I map them from states to action is what I am looking for when I am doing reinforcement learning. So, any policy that gives me the maximum reward is what I am looking for. So, in the example, we have to define somehow a reward function, and then given different action scenarios possible, we would look at what are the different values of rewards that we are getting for the different hypotheses about the actions, and we say that the particular action that we say is happening is based on one that comes up with the maximum reward. So, that is how we get to the optimal policy. This is to answer Farjana Farheen about some material to study Lisp and Prolog language. Okay, the best place for Prolog is go online and go to SWI Prolog. So, SWI Prolog has its own site and it has a very nice tutorial on Prolog. So, that is the best place, SWI Prolog, that is the best place. Lisp is a little bit difficult, but if you go to the computer science web page of Carnegie Mellon University, there you would get a very nice Lisp book called Common Lisp, a general introduction to symbolic computation by David S. Torres-Z, and that is one starting point for Lisp. So, now to answer Vishek Kumar, who have now finally told me that he is in the first semester. I could guess that he was in the first semester from the very beginning by the way questions were coming. So, I am very impressed with you, Avishek, that being in first semester of an engineering course, you are sitting for an NPTEL online program. My advice to you at this point of time, or rather a suggestion to you at this point of time, would be like, please look up NPTEL courses that you think can make your portfolio stronger. So, do not do arbitrary courses from arbitrary picks. Look for AI related courses that are available. So, you could do all the AI related courses one after another, and then all the machine learning courses one after another. There are many in each of these areas on NPTEL itself, and that is how you prepare or learn AI as a first semester student. Now, there is one question from Megha Agarwal. Can you explain best search, sir? Okay. So, this is something that we have done way back in our first 2 weeks of study. So, we had looked at what is called problem solving as search, where if you remember, you search on a graph that is generated as you have nodes generated for you. Now, the best first method is about taking a path and then evaluating the results. And if you remember the heuristic function that I have spoken of, f equal to g plus h. So, you compute them, and if you see that these are not good enough as compared to a previous path that you have left unexplored, you jump back there and explore that one. So, the best first method is distinctly different from either depth first or breadth first in the following way. The breadth first method explores every level at every step. That is the breadth first. You do everything at this level, then the next level, then the next level. The depth first, on the other side, actually takes a path, goes down to the very extreme and explores the depth. Whereas the best first, as the name implies, is about jumping around. So, it explores, looks for what is the heuristic value. If it gets a better one there, jumps there and explores that path, and then says that this is getting worse, jumps back this side. So, it does this idea of expanding the next node is based on which is the best node. It is neither based on whether I am exploring every level first or I am exploring one after another the levels. So, the best first is about jumping around and exploring the best node in the next step. I hope this could clarify your doubt. Otherwise, I would suggest you go back and look up the lectures in week 2, where we have really drawn animations of the best first search in the video lectures. So, this brings us to almost the final stages of the interaction today. It was a great pleasure interacting with you in the 3 live sessions, and it was a great pleasure doing this course on NPTEL on fundamentals of artificial intelligence. I hope you people could take up the fundamentals that you have learned here and really use it in your own domains of expertise in whichever area you are working in mechanical engineering or other forms of engineering that you are interested in. Now, there has been a lot of queries not here, but on the portal on the type of examination that is expected at the end of this course. So, I will just take a minute to tell you what is there. Most of the examination I am expecting would be along the lines of the assignment. So, it would be like multiple choice questions possibly, most of it, but also you would be expected to write certain strings as answers. So, when you write those strings as answers, please be very careful not to include extra spaces at the beginning or at the end, because then this being machine evaluated, these extra spaces can create problems for the string and your answer may be evaluated wrong in spite of your string or phrase being correct. So, when you type, be careful not to type extra spaces in the beginning or at the end. As for the multiple choice ones, the format and the way to answer them would be same as what you have been doing possibly in the assignments. Thank you very much and have a very nice day.